Today is also Trinity Sunday. Trinity is one of those strange and beautiful ideas that is, in one moment, very orthodox, and yet in the next, basically heretical as soon as you talk about it for too long. Because the joke is that almost any way you can try to explain the mystery of Trinity ends up being some kind of misrepresentation of the divine. So either sometimes you end up implying that God sometimes acts like a father and other times like a son and sometimes a spirit. That's what we call modalism. These are all just modes of God or ways that God interacts with us, and technically that's heresy. Other times, you might end up implying that God is what you get when you add up a father and a son and a spirit. That's what we call partialism. God is the sum total of the three persons of Trinity, and that also is technically heresy. We even had a really big fight that led to the Great Schism between the Eastern and the Western churches in the 11th century, because we couldn't even figure out the relationships within the Trinity. The OG Nicene Creed has this line that says the Spirit proceeds from the Father, but then about 1,000 years in, the Roman Church took it on themselves to add that the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son, which the Eastern Orthodox Church took to mean that there was now a hierarchy within the Trinity. They said that's not cool, so they pieced out, even though nothing has ever been peaceful ever since. Unfortunately, I think at its heart, Trinity is supposed to be mysterious. And actually, it's at its best almost unquestionably when we lean into that. Because when we say that God is triune, we're not so much trying to explain the divine. That almost never works out well for us. All of our God talk is always metaphorical anyway, right? God is not literally a father or a mother or a son or even a spirit. Those are all human ideas mapped onto God. But when we affirm that God is Trinity, that God is community, that God is somehow within Godself the very nature of love, and that God could be giving, receiving community from before creation, before there was anything else to interact with, we're affirming that God is love, that God can be love even within Godself. And that is really at the heart of this idea of Trinity. It's the heart of what Jesus comes to reveal to us. Not the details of God's metaphysics. Those will always remain the realm of speculation. But our faith and our trust is that the nature of the God that shaped the universe and us is loving community from before anything. And the word that we use for that is Trinity. So sometimes these different liturgical Sundays can sort of slip by unnoticed, but I think it can be really meaningful to remind ourselves of the depth of love embodied even in our calendar.